This is VOA News in Washington. I'm Jeff Custer. A 3-day ceasefire between Sudan's warring factions has gone into effect Tuesday after what the United States called an intense negotiation. Both the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces publicly pledged to uphold the halt in fighting, though there were already reports of sporadic gunfire in the capital, Khartoum, on Tuesday. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said the U.S. will work with the Sudanese, regional, and international partners to help create a committee to oversee the negotiation and implementation of a permanent cessation of the fighting in Sudan. The International Committee of the Red Cross Tuesday welcomed the announced ceasefire in Sudan, but stressed it needed to be implemented up and down the chain of command. Speaking to a news conference in Geneva, ICRC Regional Director for Africa, Patrick Youssef, said his organization is greeting the ceasefire with cautious optimism, and they will be working hard to ensure all Sudanese understand what's at stake.
What we need now to gear up for is increase our response and make sure that the dialogue on the respect of international law happens not only at the top levels, but also at the ground level, and we're really mobilizing a lot of our teams to make sure that the commandship of both the RSF and the Sudanese Armed Forces are very attentive to that aspect, which, as you know, will minimize civilian harm as we speak and certainly ensure a conducive environment for any peace negotiations to start.
At that same news conference, a spokesman for the UN Humanitarian Affairs Office, Jens Lerke, said the humanitarian needs in Sudan were already at record levels before the fighting broke out. He called the conflict a fist in the face to the Sudanese people in need. The World Health Organization warned Tuesday of a huge biological risk in Sudan after one of the sides in the conflict occupied a lab that holds measles, cholera, and pathogens and other hazardous materials. This is VOA News. Sweden has informed Russia that 5 employees of the Russian embassy in Stockholm have been asked to leave the country because they were suspected of spying. Associated Press correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström says the alleged activities of the 5 were incompatible with their diplomatic status. Billström adds Russia's ambassador to Sweden had been informed of the expulsions. Broadcaster SVT reports that Sweden's National Security Agency recently received a list of names of a number of suspected Russian intelligence officers. Neighbouring Norway said 2 weeks ago that it was expelling 15 Russian diplomats accused of spying. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
U.S. President Joe Biden formally announced he is running for re-election Tuesday, and analysts say the president has some issues to overcome. Associated Press correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Right now, President Biden is 80 years old. He'll be 81 on November 20th. William Howell, professor of American politics at the University of Chicago, says that's an issue.
I think that raises large questions about generational issues within the Democratic Party and the opportunities for leadership, but just also in terms of, his health and well-being.
And Howell says there won't be uniform support across the board in the Democratic Party, not right away.
Right now, they're expressing, their interest in some idealized alternative that has yet to be named.
Barbara Perry, University of Virginia Director of Presidential Studies, says Biden should focus on issues where he knows the polls are on his side.
2/3 of Americans at least believe that abortion should be legal and safe.
I'm Donna Warder.
Entertainer and activist Harry Belafonte has died of congestive heart failure at his home in New York. Belafonte was 96. Associated Press correspondent Margie Zoraletta has more.
That right there is what Harry Belafonte was best known for. Belafonte said in a 2001 AP interview he heard about that song used in all kinds of ways, but one in particular.
More people have told me they sing that song in the shower than any other song I've ever heard of.
Belafonte was one of the first popular black performers on film. He was one of the first to sell 1 million records and the first to win an Emmy. Belafonte also was an activist, marching for civil rights and taking on presidents to push for social change. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
A Japanese space startup tech company, iSpace, is attempting Tuesday to become the first private company to land an unmanned probe on the moon. If all goes as planned, iSpace's Hakuto R Mission 1 lander has already begun its descent towards the lunar surface. It will slow its orbit to some 100 kilometers above the moon, then adjust its speed and altitude to make a soft landing about an hour later. In Washington, I'm Jeff Custer. This is VOA News.
Thank you for watching. Can you do me a favor? Please leave a comment in the comment section below. That would really help. Thank you, and see you again soon.